Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show. The Griffin Lord never imagined that Lin You would have such a powerful flying unit beside him. In front of the giant plant dragon, his troops were like a baby griffin, completely incomparable. It's a shame that he wanted to invite others to ride with him just now. It was a shame. And this huge movement also attracted the attention of the Seventh Order lords in the team, who looked at Lin You and the Demon King Dragon under him in amazement. That seems to be a rare unit of the plant system, right? At the front of the team, the third prince, Qinli, looked at Lin You in the sky and said softly. Hearing the words, the soldier next to him also looked back and said, "It should be. I have seen other plant lords summon this unit before. The strength is relatively strong in the same rank. Is the third prince interested? There is indeed a point." Qinli nodded slightly. "You should know that my father is more inclined to my second brother. If I want to get that thing, I have to recruit more lords." "Your Highness, don't talk nonsense outside." The captain of the soldier looked around, and his expression gradually became solemn. "Don't worry, I know what to do." Qinli smiled slightly, "But I didn't expect that there would be rare troops in the team this time, so it's a pleasant surprise to come out this time. It's just a rare unit. It doesn't explain much. My subordinates still suggest to observe it first." "That's what I mean too." Qinli took a deep look at Lin You in the air, then withdrew his gaze and stopped talking. "That's all." The team went all the way. He quickly crossed the plain and came to the frontline post 100 kilometers away from the main city, and terrifying beast roars began to be heard in his ears. Exactly as the news said. At this moment, the entire checkpoint defense line that stretched for several kilometers was surrounded by a dense group of monsters, frantically attacking the fortifications outside the checkpoint. On top of the established arrow towers and city walls, a large group of lords and soldiers kept shouting to block the invasion of monsters. "Quick! Quickly plug that gap. Don't let those monsters rush in. The magic cannon is in place. Attack the monsters in the direction of the city gate with all your strength. Where are the people? Where did they all die? The east exit needs support. Not good. The south exit has been breached, come and block it with me." Anxious shouts, accompanied by beast roars, reverberated throughout the entire checkpoint. As soon as Lin You and the others arrived here, they saw figures constantly rushing back and forth inside the checkpoint. Carrying equipment, treating the wounded, and repairing the city walls are all too busy. Lin You found that the defensive wall of the entire checkpoint was made of a very hard wood, and the rows were connected together to completely separate the two sides of the battlefield. On one side, there are imperial soldiers and lords who are constantly on the go. On one side, there is an army of monsters roaring wildly. Even further away, there are hundreds of extremely huge figures that seem to be commanding the surrounding monsters. The terrifying power made Lin You, who was on the back of the Demon King Dragon, startled. Eighth Order monster. That's definitely an Eighth Order monster. And it's even more terrifying than the Eighth Order he's seen before. Even the Sixth and Seventh Order monsters that were attacking the city wall exuded an aura that ordinary monsters did not have, as if they were going mad. With just one glance, Lin You saw an extra skill on the attributes of these monsters. Is this a chaotic monster? Looking at those crazy monsters, Lin You couldn't help but palpitate, and immediately let the Demon King Dragon land on the ground. And the soldiers and lords who were defending against the army of monsters at the checkpoint finally found their team, and their hearts were all shocked. It's an Imperial soldier. The Imperial support team is here. Everyone, hold on. He led a man in armor and shouted at the surrounding, and immediately walked down the city wall in a hurry to meet the captain of the soldiers at the forefront of the team and Qinli. "My subordinates see His Royal Highness the Third Prince, and see the captain of the soldiers. Get up, tell me the current situation, everyone else. Hurry up and support, and never let the monsters rush into the checkpoint." The captain of the soldier did not hesitate at all, and immediately issued a loud order to the team around him. Those lords who couldn't wait to kill monsters to earn points, How could they still hold their breath, and all of a sudden roared and rushed towards the defensive city wall at the checkpoint. At the same time, a large number of troops were summoned by them, which turned into a torrent and spread out in all directions. Haha, cool. It's been a long time since I met so many chaotic monsters. You must earn enough points today. That's necessary. I'll take care of this place, and no one will rob me. Damn it. Another group of monsters rushed over there, brothers asking for support. Hold on. I'll go right there. With the addition of the lords, the situation of the entire checkpoint changed at once, gradually blocking the onslaught of the monster group and pressing them back. Lin You is the same. It was his first time to the frontline battlefield, and naturally he would not miss this great opportunity to earn a lot of points. Seeing that the checkpoint city wall was already occupied by other lords and troops, he immediately flew into the sky on the demon king dragon. Then he stretched out his hand, and 20 ancient war trees and 16 ancient natural trees suddenly appeared, fell to the ground, and joined the troops outside the checkpoint. War trample. Just listen to Lin Yu's order. All the ancient war trees launched a savage collision, stepping on the footsteps of Boom, slammed into the group of monsters, forming a terrifying earthquake area around. In the blink of an eye, a large group of 6th order monsters were trampled to death on the spot. Even the 7th order monsters died and were seriously injured, make the whole scene instantly empty. Damn it. It's so fierce. Whose unit is this? The lords on the nearby city walls were all stunned by this sudden scene, and looked at the ancient war trees that were more than 10 meters high. It stands to reason that the ancient tree of war should not be so strong. At least it shouldn't be able to inflict heavy damage on 7th order chaotic monsters so easily. However, the picture in front of him is quite the opposite. It was just a war trampling, and a large number of monsters were wiped out, which was far beyond their understanding. But how do they know? These plants of Lin You were all enhanced by the aura of the Lingxi royal family. Not to mention the 10% increase in attributes, there is also the suppression of the dragon's power of the demon king dragon, which reduces the enemy's attributes by 5%. And rushing to the front of the ancient war trees, there are also 7th order armored moss symbiotically, and their attributes have far exceeded the average 7th order. Even in the face of chaotic monsters of the same rank, he is not afraid at all. But do you think this is the end? Just when all the lords were shocked by the tyrannical power of the ancient tree of war, the dozen or so natural ancient trees below the city wall suddenly dropped leaves. New skills of natural ancient trees, flourishing. Activate. In the blink of an eye, those leaves fell to the ground and quickly turned into tree demons with branches. And more and more dense. It actually filled the entire city wall directly, and collided fiercely with the surrounding monsters. With the addition of Lingxi's halo, the attributes of these saplings are higher than ordinary 6th order ones. Almost everywhere his eyes went, it was all green, and the whole scene looked extremely vast. What a perverted plant-type unit. You can summon so many tree demons at one time. Won't the energy of these units be exhausted? This is unscientific. I also have the natural ancient tree, so I should only be able to summon a few tree demons at a time. Could it be a mutant army? Mutation? Why haven't I heard that troops can mutate? The lords were talking. His eyes could not help but fall on Lin You, who was riding the demon king dragon in the sky, his face full of shock. Especially the other plant lords, all of them were as if they had never seen the world before, and they were extremely confused. Plant-based troops. When did you become so perverted? Did human evolution not take me? However, no matter how shocked they were, after a while, they were immediately pulled back to the world by the army of monsters that appeared crazily in front of them, and they had to seriously command the troops under them to resist. The battle outside the checkpoint has gradually developed to the point of white-hot. The group of 8th order monsters in the distance seemed to become anxious because they couldn't attack for a long time, and kept roaring wildly at the surrounding 6th and 7th order monsters. Roar. At this moment, a terrifying roar sounded. A huge manticore suddenly appeared among the group of 8th Order monsters, exuding a monstrous black aura. And under the loud roar just now, the 6th and 7th Order monsters below suddenly turned red and became even more violent. Warn! The monster leader, the 9th Order Chaos Manticore appeared. Affected by the monster leader, all attributes of all monsters are increased by 20%. A 9th Order monster. All attributes increased by 20%. At this moment, all the lords were startled, and their hearts trembled violently. No one expected that there would be 9th Order monsters here. Even the captain of the soldier who was listening to his subordinates reporting the situation at the checkpoint was interrupted by this shocking aura, and his expression suddenly changed. 9th Order. How can a 9th Order monster appear? Under the horror, he couldn't care about it anymore. He immediately put aside his men and hurried to the city wall. When he saw the terrifying figure standing in the group of 8th Order monsters, his pupils suddenly tightened. Without any hesitation, he stretched out his hand and made a move, and a huge dragon with wings on its back appeared in front of the city wall. That aura actually reached the terrifying level of the 9th Order. I saw the soldier jump down, jumped on the back of the dragon, and suddenly rose into the air, facing the manticore in the distance. All 7th Order lords, come with me. Help me block those 8th Order lords. I will deal with the monster leaders, and the others will stick to the checkpoint. A loud shout echoed in the air. In a blink of an eye, all the 7th Order lords who were on standby dispatched one after another, rushing out of the checkpoint with their respective arms, and followed behind the soldier chief. On the way, the 6th and 7th Order monsters were smashed away by them, and there was no enemy once. However, this situation did not last long, and after hearing the roar of those 8th Order monsters, they directly met them and started a fierce battle with their troops. The leading soldier even summoned a large number of 8th Order flood dragons, heading straight for the monster leader, the manticore. Roar! The manticore seemed to sense the threat of the 9th Order flood dragon under the soldier's head, and a red light suddenly appeared on his body, and a huge flame quickly condensed in its mouth. Get out of the way! The soldier's face changed, and he shouted at the 8th Order Jiaolong beside him. However, in the next second, the flames in the manticore's mouth exploded, and a straight pillar of flame suddenly spewed out. A few flood dragons that couldn't be avoided were hit by the flame pillar in an instant, evaporated in place, and didn't even have time to let out a scream. Damn! The soldier's eyes were red and blood was dripping from his heart. It took a huge amount of resources to recruit it, and it was gone. No one could accept it. Immediately ordered the 9th Order Jiaolong under him to rush to the manticore, entangled with the manticore to fight. As for himself, he jumped on the back of another flood dragon and launched an attack from a distance. For a while, terrifying roars and explosions kept echoing in my ears, the surrounding earth shattered, and the air surged wildly. Just heard a bang. 2 9th Orders with the ability to fly rose into the air, tore and collided with each other, and staged a shocking battle in the air. Even the 6th Order lords who are far away from the checkpoint can feel the shocking power. However, without giving them more time to think about it, the roar outside the city wall pulled them back to reality again. Not good. The line of defense has been breached. Hurry up and defend, hurry up and stop them, don't let them rush in. No way. I can't stop it. A monster is climbing on the city wall. With the addition of 20% of the attributes of the monster leader, the monsters outside the checkpoint were finally completely violent, all eyes were red, and they rushed to the checkpoint defense line desperately, causing the line of defense that was barely supported to collapse instantly, and the situation that the line of defense was broken frequently began to occur. There were even a lot of 7th Order monsters who stepped on the corpses of their companions and rushed to the city wall, and started fighting on the city wall. The troops died and scattered, and there was no way to organize an effective defense. At this moment, the 3rd prince appeared with a large group of thunder beasts that he had just summoned. Everyone, don't panic. Defend the city wall and hold on until the captain of the soldiers repels the monster leader and we will win. As the person with the highest status in the checkpoint, Qin Li actually took the lead at this moment with his own troops on the city wall, and followed him to defend against the rushing monsters. Seeing him appear, the other lords and soldiers seemed to see the backbone, and finally calmed down. Then, under the command of Li, he began to reorganize the defense to resist the beast tide. It has to be said that people born in the family of emperors have a natural leadership aura that makes people convincing. But even so, there was still no way to stop the maddened monsters outside. There are constantly monsters crossing the fortifications and leaping over the city wall, and the casualties also begin to increase rapidly. If this continues, the checkpoint will be breached sooner or later. At that time, their point's mission will definitely be in vain, and they can even abandon the checkpoint and escape back to the main city. It seems that there is no need for special measures. Lin Yu's face was solemn. With the current situation, even if he summoned all the exploding mushrooms for a collective bombing, or let the demon king Long Yao Fei Long launch a combination of skills, there would be no way to make a big difference. If you want to turn this situation around, you have to be ruthless. And the only thing he could call the final hole card in his hand was that. Thinking of this, Lin Yu's eyes fell on a large area of monsters in front of him, as well as the blood all over the ground, and the corners of his mouth were slightly raised. After resting at home for so long, it's time for you to come out and show your face. You're right. Ching-ting. The moment the voice fell, the sky outside the checkpoint exploded. An unimaginably huge figure suddenly appeared in everyone's sight. Boom! Just heard a loud bang. Ching-ting's huge body slammed to the ground, setting off a terrifying wave of air outside the checkpoint. Everyone's eyes widened, watching this sudden change. Even the lords who were fighting fiercely with the Eighth Order monsters in the distance turned their heads in shock. No way. Because of this type of troop, it is really too big. It's so big that they can't imagine it. The body is 70 to 80 meters high, and there is a giant vine forest that spreads out for nearly half a kilometer. The visual impact immediately shocked them to the point of being speechless. Is it really a unit that the Lord can summon? None of the Ninth Order monsters have such an exaggerated body shape. Don't talk about them. Even the well-informed Third Prince Li had never seen such a bizarre unit. And just when everyone was shocked by Ching-ting's exaggerated way of appearing, Ching-ting, who was in the center of the monster army, finally moved. I saw that around its body, huge vines rose into the sky, instantly piercing the monsters in the forest, including the Seventh Order monsters. All of them were killed in one hit. Immediately afterwards, the flowers on top of it spurted a large swath of blood-poisonous mist, covering the entire vine forest. The monsters that were still madly ramming the vines and trying to escape were immediately drained of blood and fell to the ground one by one. Even their flesh and blood were swallowed up and turned into piles of terrifying bones. This time, those monsters were finally scared, and they desperately rammed and bit the surrounding vines. However, what shocked everyone was that after being destroyed by the vines and monsters, they recovered at an impressive speed to the naked eye, as if they could never be killed. For a while, the explosion of boom and the screams of monsters continued to sound in the vine forest, and no monster could escape from the forest. At the edge of the forest, countless giant vines swayed wildly. Like a giant octopus, it swims around the entire battlefield, pumping out the surrounding monsters in pieces. And Ching-ting's movements are getting faster and faster, getting more and more crazy, and even a burst of wild laughter from the demon girl gradually makes people shudder. Lin You knew that this was Ching-ting's frenzy skill taking effect. Sure enough, when he checked the information of Ching-ting through contact, he found that its attributes had been elevated to a very exaggerated level. Name, Mad Banshee Ivy. Race, Plant. Level 7. Strength, 1298. Physique, 1522. Agility, 733. Spirit, 1256. Skills, Devour, Blood Poison Mist, Forest of Thorns, Bloody Frenzy. Blessings of the Earth, 50% faster recovery from injuries. Introduction, one of the three branches of Banshee, Withering, Charm, and Madness, a terrifying plant born for war. Blood can greatly stimulate its potential, and the more you fight, the more brave you are. In addition to agility, the other 3 attributes all broke through the limit of the 7th order, reaching a terrifying level of more than 1,000 points. And it is still improving at a considerable speed to the naked eye. What a pervert. What kind of troop is this? Does the plant system have such a unit? The lords on the city wall were so shocked that the expressions on their faces changed, and they finally woke up from the shock. Thanks to the appearance of Ivy, the army of monsters outside the checkpoint was swept away at once, completely turning the situation around. And the lords who reacted also began to sound the horn of a counterattack. The roars, the shouts of killing, connected together. Qingting outside the checkpoint is like a bulldozer, pushing horizontally all the way in the army of monsters, and a reminder sounded in Lin Yu's mind. In just 10 minutes, he had accumulated 450,000 mana and more than 9,000 honor points, which made his face crooked. Fortunately, he took up the task. At other times, it would be impossible to encounter so many monsters at one time, let alone get so many magical energy and points. This continued until more than 10 minutes later. In the distant sky, finally came the roar of the dragon, and a violent collision. The huge body of the 9th Order griffin suddenly fell from the air. Boom! With a terrifying loud noise, the ground cracked, and a terrifying pit was directly smashed by the body of the griffin. The blood-covered griffin climbed up from the pit, roared unwillingly at Jiaolong, turned and fled to the depths of the battlefield, disappearing in a blink of an eye. Without the blessings of its attributes, those monsters who have fallen into madness also weakened and showed signs of decline. Great! We won! Counterattack! Kill all these monsters! Kill! Not a single one! The lords shouted excitedly, and rushed out of the checkpoint with their respective units to deal with the remaining monsters. And those 8th Order monsters who are entangled are also fleeing to the death. The defeat of the monster leader can be said to be a treebreaker, and there is no longer the nature of the attack just now. Seeing that the situation was not going well, Lin You immediately recalled Qingting, who had already killed her madness, to the territory through spiritual contact. That huge body also disappeared from everyone's sight, leaving only a large piece of dead bones. Not long after, the long soldier came back triumphantly riding a scarred 9th Order Jiaolong. Then, under his leadership, the 7th Order lords also joined the battle, and finally succeeded in repelling the remaining monsters. There was a lot of cheers in the checkpoint. It's finally over. The soldier chief standing beside Qin Li heaved a sigh of relief. This time, if he hadn't had a 9th tier unit, I'm afraid the entire checkpoint would have fallen. It was really thrilling to the extreme. It's a bit abnormal that a 9th Order monster would appear in a beast height of the scale. Qin Li said with a frown. Don't think about it, it must be the ghosts of the gang of Yuansheji. The soldier snorted coldly. It seems that a lot of methods have been used to lead the 9th Order monsters here. After I go back this time, I will report this matter immediately, and then wait for the Emperor to decide. All right. Qin Li nodded silently, then thought of something, and then said, by the way, did you see that strange plant soldier just now? I see, but I was concentrating on fighting at the time, and I didn't pay attention. Does your highness know who summoned it? It's the first time I've seen such a peculiar army. I feel that its breath seems to be constant. When I climbed up and finally disappeared, I could even feel an aura that was no weaker than the 8th rank. The words of the soldiers were full of surprise. I don't know who summoned it. Qin Li shook his head, but I think I should be able to guess whose troop it was. As he spoke, a faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, and he couldn't help looking at Lin You, who was walking down the city wall as if nothing had happened. It's him? The soldier chief followed Qin Li's gaze with a surprised expression. But before he could think about it, Qin Li said, let's go, let's deal with the post-war matters first. If such a big incident happened this time, we have to report it back as soon as possible. Also, this time Yuansha realm made such a big move, you have to investigate it carefully. Having said that, the two left the place and began to arrange the aftermath. As for Lin You, he followed the chattering lords away from the checkpoint and rushed back in the direction of the main city, not daring to stay here for long. Because he is very clear. With so many eyes in the battle just now, someone must have seen Qingting summoned by him, or guessed that Qingting was his class. After all, there were only dozens of plant types present, and even fewer were within the summoning range. In order not to attract attention, it is better to leave quickly, so as to avoid unnecessary trouble. And after this battle, his honor points have also accumulated to more than 11,000 points, and his magic energy has been awarded a full 500,000. I can finally exchange things, and I am still looking forward to it. After an hour, Lin You finally returned to the main city again. Before entering the city, he also recalled all the troops around him, leaving only Lingxi for self-defense. Soon, he went through the city gate and came to the mission hall. After submitting the task, his honor points also rose to more than 12,000 points. Although not much, it was a lot of income for him who arrived in the main city on the first day. So after collecting the points, he immediately went to the point exchange place and started to exchange things. The first thing to exchange is the teleportation crystal used by other lords before. Consumables, teleport crystal. Effect: after using the crystal, it can be directly teleported back to the main city. It can only be used on the frontier battlefield. The preparation time is 5 seconds. Required for redemption, 1,000 honor points, 10,000 magic energy. Very expensive. But it's worth it. This is Lin Yu's evaluation of the teleportation crystal. Although a crystal costs 1,000 points and 10,000 mana, it is something that can save lives at critical times. As long as this thing is there, he can teleport back to the main city anytime, anywhere. At that time, even if your territory encounters a crisis, you can rush back to rescue in time, which is definitely a must-have for going out on an adventure. The only downside is that it takes 5 seconds to prepare. If you encounter a high-level lord, such as the 8th or 9th order, you will not be given time to prepare at all, and you will be given seconds. This must be noted. Lin Yu didn't think much, just exchanged for a teleportation crystal, and then continued to rummage. I have to say that the classification of the points exchange interface is quite good, and it is very convenient to find things. Soon, Lin Yu found another thing he wanted. Consumables, stand-in scarecrow. Effect: when the carrier receives fatal damage, it can take the damage instead. After it takes effect, it will be automatically destroyed, and it is invalid for regular attacks. Required for redemption, 10,000 honor points, 100,000 magic energy. That's right. Yet another lifesaver. And it is also specifically for the case of encountering high-level lords. After all, with one more life, the probability of surviving on this battlefield will be much higher. Especially after seeing the horror of 9th order monsters just now, he didn't dare to take chances. Resources are gone, you can earn more. When a person dies, there is really nothing left. So Lin Yu gritted his teeth and chose to exchange for a substitute scarecrow. All of a sudden, his honor points were only 1,000 points left, and his magic energy dropped below 500,000. In the end, he spent another 500 points to buy 2 props with experience. Consumables, Experience Ball, Tier 6. Effect: increase 250 experience points for the designated arms, only effective for arms below the 6th rank. Required for redemption, 250 honor points, 2,500 magic energy. This prop was bought by him for Qing Gang. Now the level of Qing Gang has reached the 6th level. But if you want to rise to the 7th rank, you have to wait for a while. Considering that there may be all kinds of group battles in the future, you need to use Qinggong's Barbaric Roar skill, so it is better to quickly upgrade it to the 7th rank. That's when it's a big help. The effect of Savage Roar, increasing by 30% for 30 seconds, is still very scary. And the remaining more than 500 points, he kept temporarily, used to deal with emergencies, and then exited the exchange interface. The whole person also became a lot more at ease. With these 2 life-saving items, he can finally earn points on the battlefield with confidence. But before that, he had to go back to the territory first. After all, territory is his foundation. It's been so long since I've been out this time, it's time to go back and take a look, so as not to cause any trouble. After thinking about it, he turned around and left the hall and came to the main street outside. The sun has now set in the west. But there are still many lords and practitioners on the street. It seems that they have just come back from the outside, and they look dusty. The shouts of the shop vendors on the side are endless, and they are all selling the harvest of today's outing. Come on, take a look. The 8th order gold-devouring silk is a must-have for making armor, a rare material, sold at a low price. At this moment, a shout came into Lin Yu's ears, causing him to stop. Looking at the sound, I saw a small booth on the side, and a powerful lord was standing there, shouting loudly. 8th order lord. Lin Yu was secretly shocked. He found that the momentum of this lord was not much weaker than that of a soldier. This is definitely an 8th order lord, and the golden silk Lin Yu at the booth also heard McGann say that it is one of the best materials for making chain armor. And it's still level 8. Unable to help, he slowly walked towards the booth. The lord saw him coming, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Yo, little brother, you look very good. You just came to the main city? Would you like to take a look at this bundle of gold silk? It's perfect for making armor. This lord, obviously a thick-skinned person, did not have the arrogance of being a high-ranking lord at all, but greeted Lin Yu enthusiastically. Lin Yu glanced at the silk on the booth and asked, "Why don't you use such a good material to make your own armor?" "Of course I'm short of money, so I need to earn some pocket money." The lord frowned and said, "How is it? Is the little brother interested?" "I'm not telling you, the armor made of this material is invincible at the same rank, and can block the 8th rank. There is no problem with a single blow, it is absolutely necessary to kill people when you go out, and I can count you cheaper." "Bah! Don't listen to him, boy." But at this moment, another voice suddenly came from the side. Lin Yu turned his head to look, and saw the big man in the other booth, glanced here with contempt, and said disdainfully. He obviously used it to fool people, because he couldn't find an 8th order craftsman and couldn't make equipment. Don't be fooled by him. I see. Lin Yu suddenly realized. I couldn't help but glanced at the big man, and found that his aura was comparable to the lord in front of him, and he was also an 8th order lord. What's the situation? There are 2 8th orders at once. Has the 8th order lord started mass production? However, before he could think about it, the lord in front of him spoke again. I saw that he was not annoyed at all, but had a confident smile on his face. I'm not talking nonsense. You can't deny the value of the 8th order gold-devouring silk, right? What if one day you are lucky enough to meet an 8th order craftsman? Little brother, don't you think so? Indeed. Lin Yu nodded blankly. After hesitating for a while, he finally couldn't help but ask, then how do you sell this material? I originally planned to sell 200,000 mana, but I think you are very pleasing to the eye, little brother. How about 100,000? Good guy, cut in half directly. This is too pleasing to the eye. Lin Yu's face was full of black lines. However, he was still very moved by this 8th order silk. After all, he still doesn't have a suitable body protective gear, and in his territory there is Magna, the master craftsman of the dwarves. He can forge materials that others cannot forge. So after hesitating for a while, Lin Yu said, "Okay, I want this golden silk." You sure? The lord's eyes lit up instantly. Originally, he was just passing the time talking nonsense there, but I didn't expect Lin Yu to actually buy this material. Even the big guy next to him looked at Lin Yu with a look of stunned expression. Although the price of 100,000 mana is a bit low for the 8th order golden silkworm, it is extremely difficult to build this material. Unless you know a craftsman above the 8th rank, there is basically no one who is too busy to buy this kind of material, and it is no wonder that he will show such an expression. But no matter what they think, the deal was finally done. The 8th order lord took over 100,000 mana in astonishment. And Lin Yu also turned and left with his golden silk. Only the big man was dumbfounded. It wasn't until Lin You walked away that a word suddenly popped out of his mouth. The current newcomer. Is it so easy to deceive? Those two lords naturally didn't know that there were people in Lin Yu's territory who could forge 8th order materials. If he had known, he probably wouldn't have sold the materials at such a low price. In the end, Lin You actually made money. This also allowed Lin You to see business opportunities. As long as he buys a large amount of high-end materials in the main city, gives it to McGann to make it into equipment, and then sells it at a high price, wouldn't he be able to make money every day? Certainly. There is also a risk in doing so, and it is easy to be targeted by high-level lords. For the sake of your own safety, you have to think of other ways. With this idea in mind, he wandered around the main city again, looking for other useful materials. Until it got dark. Finally came to the teleportation square again. Swish! A ray of light flashed, and he appeared in his own territory. This teleportation array, connecting the territory and the main city, is really very convenient. The first thing I did when I returned to the territory was to rush to check the situation of Qingting. As he expected, at this time, Qingting has already retreated from the previous state of killing madness, and has returned to its original state, and its attributes have also recovered as before. Obviously, the frenzy is not permanent. Otherwise it's too buggy. But even so, Qingting is still on the battlefield. And Lin You was very surprised. After today's round of massacres, Qingting's experience skyrocketed directly to more than 1,000. In other words, it killed 7 or 800 7th order monsters. Not to mention the 6th order monsters, at least they are calculated in thousands. You must know that it took only 10 minutes from Qingting's appearance to disappearance, and all the chaotic monsters whose attributes were increased by 20% were killed. Such an exaggerated record, I am afraid that few 7th order arms can do it. These are not the point. The most important thing is that Qingting is not far from the 8th order. According to the laws we know so far, when the arms are 7 to 8, they should need a 7th order territorial essence. With his current strength, there is no way to kill the 7th order lord to obtain the essence of the territory. But don't forget. When he came back from the Wanjia battlefield last time, the king rewarded him with a 7th order territorial essence. And the essence of the territory is now staying in his personal space and has never moved. Could it be that he had envisaged such a situation a long time ago? Lin You was both excited and solemn. When he first received the 7th order territory essence, he still didn't understand the king's intention. Now that I think about it carefully, I realize that something is not right. The king rewarded them with the essence of the 7th order territory to these 6th order lords. It seems that it is not a random act, but an ulterior motive. But anyway, it's a good thing for him. After all, he has been here for so long, and he has never seen a gathering place of monsters above the 7th order, let alone the essence of the 7th order territory. Glancing at the completely dark sky outside, he didn't do anything else, he just walked back to the tree house along the stairs and went to rest. Early the next morning, Lin You went out with Lingxi and a few 7th order plants, and rushed to the direction of the dwarf tribe. When he walked outside Huangsha City, he happened to meet Shuicheng, who was instructing the demolition of the temporary residence, and a group of people under his command. As soon as he saw Lin You, Shuicheng immediately greeted him. Lord, you are here. Well, how's the expansion going during this time? Lin You glanced around and asked, casually. Go back to the Lord, construction has started in all areas. Yesterday I went to find you and you were not there, so I took the initiative to demolish the temporary residences of these dwarves and prepare to build a market here. That's good. How's the funding situation? Is it enough? If it's not enough, I'll get some more. It's really not enough. Shuicheng said embarrassedly, according to your plan, to expand Huangsha City to twice the original size, I'm afraid it's not easy to manage with the current liquidity and daily revenue. How much more do you need? About 300,000. Okay, I will transfer some funds later. The scale and quality must not be reduced. Let me know if there is anything missing. Lin You urged seriously. He earned so much magic energy just to expand his territory and speed up the acquisition of the power of faith, so naturally he can't be sloppy at this point. And the initial investment will be slowly earned back later. When the scale of Huangsha City becomes larger, are you still afraid that there will be no magic flowers? After thinking about it, he called up the resource interface and converted 300,000 magic energy into magic crystals and stored them in the working capital of Huangsha City. The remaining 100,000 will be reserved for emergency use first. After chatting with Shui Changgue about the recent construction situation, he left again, followed the newly opened road into the mountains, and soon came to the cave of the dwarf tribe. I have seen the Lord. Say hello to the Lord. The two dwarf warriors who were in charge of guarding the entrance to the cave were still old acquaintances with Lin You. When I saw him appear, I immediately greeted him. Is Magnan here? I have something to do with him. Lin You glanced inside the cave and asked. The dwarf king is forging tools in the furnace. Do you need me to pass it in? Asked one of the dwarven warriors. Lin You waved his hand. No, I'll just go in and find him. Okay, then please do it. With that said, the two dwarf warriors moved out of the way and made a gesture of invitation. If other people see this picture, I am afraid that even their jaws will drop. It is estimated that Lin You, a human, can enter the cave of the dwarf tribe with such a swagger. No one can stop him. Go through the hole. Lin You soon came to the huge furnace deep in the cave. The hot air wave, accompanied by a tinkling sound, rushed towards his face, forcing him to narrow his eyes. With great difficulty, I found McGunn, who was shirtless forging artifacts on the edge of the lava pool, and walked over slowly. Lin You? Why did you come here? Magnan in front of the forging table also quickly noticed Lin You, stopped his movements and walked off the forging table. I came to you to build a piece of equipment, didn't it affect you? Lin You looked at McGann, who was sweating profusely, and smiled. It's not in the way, it's just some simple tools. So you got good materials? Well, otherwise I wouldn't find you personally. Lin You took out the gold silk he just got from his personal space. This is it. Can you help me make a body armor? This is gold silk? McGann took the golden silk in surprise. This is a good thing. Where did you get it? I spent a lot of money to get it with other lords. Can build it? I can, but this kind of thing is more delicate. I have to ask a few clansmen to help me. It will take about 3 days. Really? That's fine, as long as you can build it, I'll come and get it later. Lin You was overjoyed. He thought that even if it was Magna who had the God of War's hammer, it would be a little difficult to create 8th order materials. But he didn't expect to agree so simply. It's really not a loss for him to invite all the dwarf tribes. Then, after discussing the specific needs of the chain armor with McGunn, he left the cave and hurried back to the territory. No way, the caves of the dwarves are really not for ordinary people to stay in. If he stayed a little longer, he was afraid that he would be roasted. But now that the equipment problem has been solved, he should continue to go to the main city to earn magic energy and earn points. After thinking about it, he went directly to the teleportation array in the territory. If you're enjoying my content, please consider donating a coffee. Or checking out my shirts on TeePublic. Swish! The white light lit up, and Lin You appeared again on the teleportation square in the main city. Today's main city of Angel Wings seems to be more lively than yesterday. Wherever his eyes go, there are all coming and going lords and cultivators. Even Lin You also saw a few new lords who were just like him yesterday, with a confused look on their faces. Then he saw a familiar picture. Hey, brother, you are very good looking. You just arrived, right? Do you need a tour guide? I can count you cheaper. A 6th order lord that Lin You had never seen before, greeted the newcomers with a smile and tried to sell himself. Well, I didn't expect this to become an industry in the main city, which made him feel funny. Probably this is something that newcomers should experience once again. I ignored it, left the teleportation square and walked towards the mission hall. However, he never thought that a middle-aged man in armor suddenly appeared in front of him and blocked his way. You must be Lin You, Mr. Lin, right? First, sir? Lin You paused in his footsteps. I almost choked on the name. But immediately, he looked suspiciously at the person coming. We know each other? I don't know, but my master knows, and I would like to invite the gentleman to the mansion to talk. The man bowed slightly to Lin You. From the breath on his body, Lin You can feel that this is at least a seventh-order cultivator. And looking at the clothes, it should be a subordinate of a major force. But the problem is, he just came here for a day. Doesn't he seem to know any people in the big forces? I want to ask, who is your master? He asked curiously. It's not convenient to disclose. The man hesitated for a while. My master said, I must invite Mr. Then, well, lead the way. Anyway, everyone in the city is protected by the rules, so Lin You didn't worry about any danger, so he just went to see who he was, and even knew his name. Please follow me. That's all. Lin You got on the carriage that the man in the armor had arranged for a long time, and walked all the way, through the streets, and gradually penetrated into the main city. Until half an hour later. The carriage finally stopped in front of a quiet and chic courtyard. Mr. Lin, it's already here. A man's voice came from outside the door. Reached? Lin You opened the curtain, got off the carriage, and looked at the small courtyard in front of him in surprise. Because in his opinion, if the seventh-order cultivator can specifically lead the way, the identity of the other party is obviously not low, at least it should be in some luxurious palace, or a place like a grand mansion. I didn't expect it to be such a quiet place. But that's fine, he doesn't like to be noisy anyway. After getting off the carriage, he walked through the gate under the guidance of the man and walked into a yard full of flowers and plants. When I saw it, I saw a familiar figure sitting at the stone table in the yard drinking tea. It's you? Lin You was surprised. Appearing in front of him at this time, isn't that the third prince of the empire, Li, whom he met yesterday when he was on a mission? Lin You didn't expect that the person who wanted to see him was actually him. And just when he was looking at Li also put down the teacup and looked up at him with a slight smile on his face. Brother Lin, sit down. He stretched out his hand in a gesture of invitation. You know me? Lin You put away his surprise and slowly came to the stone table and sat down. Li smiled and said, naturally, I recognize that Brother Lin fought at the checkpoint yesterday, and it can be said that he showed his great power. Who knows? You know? Lin You was shocked. He secretly said that the other party is worthy of being the prince of the empire, and he found out about him so quickly. However, he had already expected this situation, and it was not too surprising. After taking the freshly poured tea, he took a sip and said directly, tell me, what's the matter with me? It's impossible to just ask me for tea, right? Haha, Brother Lin is really quick to talk. He really deserves to be the person I value. Li still had a warm smile on his face, and the admiration in his eyes was also a little more intense. Since the brothers have said so, then I won't beat around the bush. I came to you this time because I want you to help me to achieve a great cause. Achieving a great career? That's right, Brother Lin came to the main city for the first time. He should have heard something about me, right? I did hear some. Lin You nodded. Li is the third son of Emperor Tianqiong, and there are also the first prince and the second princess, and because he did not inherit the angel system, he was not liked by the emperor. This is news that can be heard at will. Although more or less rumors, but it should not be far off. Li also seemed to understand the rumors, and said helplessly, Brother Lin should know that being born in an emperor's family is the most involuntary. Many things are beyond your control, even on this continent. Why is this? In your capacity, there should be no shortage of resources, right? It is true that there is no shortage, but if you want to go further, these resources alone are not enough. You must get the approval of my father. The emperor's approval? Lin You suddenly became interested. That's right. Qinli nodded, his face gradually becoming solemn. Brother Lin should have heard that after the 9th rank, it is the holy rank, right? Knowledge. Then do you know that to achieve the holy rank, you need to have Godhead fragments? Shard of Godhead? What is that? Lin You wondered. This was the first time he had heard of such a thing. And it was about things after the 10th order, which made him even more interested. Qinli seemed to be very satisfied with his response, and said with a smile, "It seems that Brother Lin has never heard of it, so I'll tell you. The Godhead fragments are actually the derivatives of the will of the main God. If the 9th order Lord wants to be promoted to the 10th level, he must have the Godhead fragments, and then continue to condense through the power of faith, gradually upgrade, and improve his strength. But if you want to break through the shackles and rise to the 12th rank, only by getting more fragments of the Godhead and repairing the Godhead will it be possible, or, get the inheritance of the 12th rank Lord. Each rank of 12 can only be inherited once. I will not give it easily. If I want to obtain the inheritance of the Father and Emperor, I must surpass my elder brother and second sister, and perform better than them. Have the opportunity. Now you know why I came here specially for you?" After saying that, Qinli glanced at Lin You silently again, as if observing his reaction. At this time, Lin You had already fallen into this shocking fact, unable to extricate himself. After a while, he finally came back to his senses, and said in surprise, "You can only level up by obtaining Godhead fragments. Does that mean that it is basically impossible for other lords to exceed the 10th order?" "You can also say the same." Qinli nodded, "But as long as you are willing to assist me, when I become an emperor, I can provide you with fragments of godhood to help you build a duchy or even a kingdom. What do you think?" Obviously, Qinli is a very ambitious person. He was not limited to establishing principalities or kingdoms. Instead, they went to the 12th order, which symbolized the apex of the continent. In the end, Lin You refused Qinli's invitation. Not for anything else, just not wanting to be involved in this right and wrong struggle. The reason why Qinli took a fancy to him was because he saw his potential. But when it comes to strength, there are too many 7th order, 8th order, and even 9th order lords stronger than him. As Qinli. As long as he is willing, there is no problem in recruiting a few strong people for his own use. After all, no matter how bad he is, he will at least be the lord of one kingdom in the future. But Lin You is different. He is an ordinary lord who has no power, and has just arrived in less than 2 months. What can he do to fight those high-level lords? So he chose to decline the invitation. Fortunately, Qinli treats people more politely than he expected. Not annoyed by his refusal. Instead, he personally sent him to the door of the small courtyard, with a faint smile on his face from beginning to end. "Brother Lin, no matter what I said today, I will keep counting. As long as you are willing, the door of my palace will be opened for you at any time. Please think about it more." "Okay, I will." Lin You agreed casually. Then he turned and left under the watch of Qinli, and rushed to the direction of the mission hall. It was not until he was far away that the guard beside Qinli whispered, "His Royal Highness, your subordinates don't understand, he is only a 6th order lord, why do you treat him with all kinds of courtesy?" "Of course you don't understand." Qinli put away his smile and his eyes gradually deepened. "The imperial brothers and sisters have power all over the empire, and they have a lot of eyeliners. Only emerging lords like this can be safe. But he, after all, he's only 6th order. What's wrong with tier 6? I'm not tier 6 too." Qinli couldn't deny it. "And have you ever seen a lord who can get an S-rank comprehensive assessment just 3 months after his arrival? S-class? How is this possible?" The guard's eyes suddenly widened, and he couldn't help but look at the place where Lin You disappeared. If Lin You were here at this time, he would definitely be very surprised. In addition to his performance at the checkpoint yesterday, Qinli could even find out the comprehensive evaluation of his test. But how did Qinli know that it took Lin You not 3 months to come here, but only 1.5 months? The other side. Lin You, who left the courtyard, quickly returned to the main street where the mission hall was located. After strolling around the street, I walked into the quest hall where people came and went, and started to read on the quest panel. To his surprise, this time there was another mission dispatched by the Empire. Mission, Enemy Den, Empire. Requirement, the trace of the Lord of the original Shajia is found near the front line, and the plot is not good. Investigate and find his den, and report it to the Empire. Quest difficulty, medium. Task reward, 1,500 honor points. A full 15,000 points reward. It's higher than yesterday's resistance to the beast tide, if Lin You guessed correctly. The original evil world den mentioned in the mission should be the culprit that attracted the Ninth Order monsters and beast tide yesterday. Even the Empire couldn't find it in a short period of time. It seems that the other party's ability to hide is still very good. However, since the mission only said to find the opponent, not to fight, then he had nothing to hesitate and took the mission directly. What if he was lucky enough to run into him? Anyway, there is no task punishment, the big deal is to give up later. Then he flipped through the panel for a while, and after receiving a request from a lord who went to the Blackwater Lake outside the city to collect the fins of the 7th Order Blackwater crocodile, he left the hall and rushed out of the city. Unexpectedly. As soon as he came outside, a big man with a huge axe came towards him. The big man was still chatting and laughing with some of his companions, but when he saw Lin You, he stopped. It's you? This person is Pei Yushan, who had a relationship with Lin You yesterday. Did not expect to meet so soon. Lin You couldn't help but sigh, this world is really small. But before he could speak, he heard Pei Yushan chuckle and said in a mocking tone, isn't this a newcomer with that liar Zhu Jun? When speaking, he deliberately amplified his voice to attract the attention of passers-by around him, accompanied by a few snickers from his companions. Lao Pei, don't talk nonsense, he is still a newcomer, and there are many things you still don't understand. That's right, newcomers, it's always a good thing to suffer a little loss at the beginning. Looking like this, are you planning to go out on a mission? Be careful not to be killed by people from other realms. Ha ha ha. The words full of ridicule kept echoing in his ears. Several people were talking to Lin You in the tone of a senior's preaching. Lin, you didn't take it seriously. Just treat him as a joke. And Pei Yushan's face also showed a hint of arrogance, and his eyes were full of disdain. Gradually, more and more people were attracted and pointed at Lin You. Lin You sighed helplessly, he really encountered this kind of guy sticking like dog skin plaster wherever he went. He didn't care, he turned his head and left. Mr. Lin, so you are here. But at this moment, a cry sounded, interrupting them. The people who were still watching from a distance, including Pei Yushan and the others, were immediately attracted by this voice. At a glance, I saw a man in armor rushing towards this side. Isn't that the deputy commander of the guards, beside the third prince, Zhou Yanwei? Why is he here? In the crowd, some people immediately recognized the identity of the person who came and exclaimed in a low voice. Even Pei Yushan's eyes narrowed and their faces were full of surprise. Who is Zhou Yanwei? That was the attendant of the third prince, Qin Li, who was in charge of matters related to Qin Li. Even though he is only 7th rank, he is one of Qin Li's most valued subordinates, and no one dares to provoke him easily. Even the lords of the 8th and 9th ranks should give him a bit of thinness and dare not neglect. How could such a character suddenly appear in the mission hall? Pei Yushan really couldn't understand. But how could he easily miss such a good opportunity to curry favor with the third prince? Immediately abandoning Lin You, he hurried up to meet him. I have seen Commander Zhou, but I don't know why Commander Zhou came here. Pei Yushan asked respectfully. You are? Zhou Yanwei stopped and looked suspiciously at the few people who appeared in front of him. Hearing this, Pei Yushan was even more respectful. I forgot to introduce myself, I am the Lord of the Hongyun Kingdom, Pei Yushan, I have met Commander Zhou. Oh, it turned out to be from the Kingdom of Fortune. Zhou Yanwei was stunned. The Fortune Kingdom is one of the subordinate kingdoms of the Vault of Heaven Empire. But even so, he just looked at Pei Yushan twice, and ignored him, but under the curious gaze of everyone, he quickly walked to the top of the steps. Then, something that took everyone by surprise happened. "Mr. Lin, we meet again." Saying that, Zhou Yanwei bowed slightly to Lin You. That incomparably polite appearance suddenly shocked everyone's jaws, and their eyes widened. Zhou Yanwei, how could he be so polite to a new lord, and even salute in front of so many people? What's the situation? Didn't he say that he was a newcomer who had just arrived in the main city? How could Zhou Yanwei be treated so politely? Suddenly, everyone was stunned. Not to mention Pei Yushan and the others, all of them seemed to have been casted on a body-fixing spell, stunned there, shocked to the extreme. Is there something wrong with me? Lin You didn't care about the reactions of the people around him and asked directly. That's right, Your Highness asked me to give you something. Saying that, Zhou Yanwei took out a token from his sleeve and handed it to Lin You. This is? Lin You looked puzzled. This is His Highness's personal token. With this item, Sir can come to the palace to find His Highness at any time. Just now, Sir was in a hurry, and His Highness specially asked me to bring it here. Okay, I'll take the things first. You go back and tell the third prince. If there is a chance in the future, I will come to the house to disturb you. Lin You took the token and put it in his personal space. He didn't expect that Qin Li would be so persevering to him and wanted to recruit him. After all, no matter what, he is just a sixth-order lord who has just arrived in the main city for 2 days. And he was given the token in front of so many people. Whether he accepts it or not, he will be labeled as the third prince faction, pushing him to the opposite of the eldest prince and the second princess. Really serious. Sure enough, none of the royal family members are fuel-efficient lamps, and it is better to keep them farther away in the future. That's all. Zhou Yanwei said goodbye to Lin You and went back to Qin Li's life. Lin You also left the mission hall while everyone watched in astonishment. When they passed by Pei Yushan's side, they could clearly feel their bodies trembling violently, and panic was written on their faces. It was not until Lin You walked away that they finally breathed a sigh of relief and almost fell to the ground. Just now, people who are actually laughing at the third prince. Not to mention Pei Yushan. Even the few companions around him felt a chill down their spines and fell into a deep fear. Based on Zhou Yanwei's attitude towards Lin You just now, if Lin You said something bad to them in front of Zhou Yanwei, I'm afraid they don't even think about mixing in the empire, and they may even lose their territory. How dare you continue to stay here, and immediately support each other to escape from here? After today's incident, they probably wouldn't dare to trouble Lin You again. Certainly. Even if they really want to trouble Lin You is not afraid. It just takes more hands and feet. After leaving the street, Lin You didn't stop, and soon came to the teleportation plaza near the city gate, and teleported directly back to the territory. Because he suddenly remembered that there was something he forgot to do. That is to let Qin Gang rise to the 7th rank first. So after returning to the territory, he called Qin Gang and took out 2 experience orbs. Are you using the experience ball, 6th order, on the Dryad General Qin Gang? Yes. With a response, the 2 experience spheres disappeared, turning into a streamer and blending into Qin Gang's body. Swish. The light comes on. Congratulations, the Tree Spirit General Qin Gang experience has reached the full value and meets the requirements for upgrading to the 7th order. Do you want to upgrade? Upgrade. In an instant, Qin Gang's body that was nearly 10 meters tall quickly rose, and gradually grew to an exaggerated level of 20 meters. The branches on the top of the head are more lush, and the limbs are several times thicker than before. Successfully advanced into an oppressive ancient war tree. Then, Lin You asked Qin Gang to stand in the hero transformation pool. After a ray of light, it finally became a heroic unit like Lingxi and the others. Name, Ancient Tree of War, Qin Gang, Royal Family. Race, Plant. Level 7, 97/2500. Strength, 1000. Physique, 1000. Agility, 755. Spirit, 755. Skills, Hardening, War Trample, Savage Roar, sends an angry roar that increases all allies' attributes by 30% for 30 seconds. Gravity Field, controls gravity, forms a gravity field around it, slows down the enemy's movement speed, and increase the speed of allies within the range. Dominate the battlefield, when this unit is on the field, the defense of all friendly melee units increases by 20%. Introduction, a huge ancient tree born for war, charging into battle and tearing up the enemy's defense line, it is the most solid shield and forward in war. The 7th Order Qin Gang finally fully demonstrated its amazing battlefield talent. Not to mention having a short burst of time, it also has one more gravity field skill than other ancient war trees. And its exclusive talent is also very good, which greatly enhances the survivability of the front row troops and provides excellent output space for the back row. Coupled with a large group of melee tree demons summoned by natural ancient trees, it is terrifying. Even the Demon King Dragon, Demon Concubine Dragon, Blade Shadow Lion, and Cactus can gain buffs. If that's the case, I'll give you Moss and a Thorn Shield. Lin You thought about it for a while, and then let a 7th Order Armored Moss symbiotically grow on Qin Gang, and a 7th Order Black Turtle Thorn Shield was also arranged for it. In the blink of an eye, Qin Gang's attributes reached a very terrifying level. In one fell swoop, he became his strongest melee unit. After doing this, Lin You was finally satisfied and teleported back to the main city. Then he took Lingxi and a few flying troops out of the city and flew straight to the battlefield, gradually leaving the main city behind. Take an hour and a half. He finally crossed the checkpoint and came to a mountain forest 40 kilometers south of the checkpoint. In the distance, a vast black lake can already be seen. It should be the Black Water Lake mentioned in the commission. Without thinking too much, I directly let the Demon King Dragon under him turn around and fly over there. When passing over the mountains and forests, I could vaguely see several figures in the forest fighting. It seemed that other lords were hunting monsters. To avoid accidents, Lin You speeded up the sky above his head. Not long after, he rushed out of the forest, came to the vicinity of the Blackwater Lake, and landed steadily on the shore. The cold wind on the lake kept blowing on his face, bringing a hint of chill. It seems to be colder than expected. Okay? As soon as he landed, Lin You couldn't help but let out a small yawn, and his brows gradually wrinkled. According to the commission, there should be many Blackwater crocodiles around the Blackwater Lake. But the current situation is that the surroundings are quiet, not even a shadow, let alone the Blackwater crocodile. Could it be that other lords took the lead? Or did he come to the wrong place? Lin You jumped off the back of the Demon King Dragon suspiciously and slowly came to the lake. Wherever his eyes go, except for the empty shore, there is only a vast black lake in front of him, and then there is nothing else. But if you look closely, you'll find out. There are still many traces of fighting left around the lake, as if it was formed not long ago, and it doesn't look like the traces left by crocodiles. There are quirky. Lin Yu's expression became more and more solemn, and he gradually retreated to the side of the troops. He was a little worried that there would be some high-level existence ambush here. If he lost his life for a commission, it would be a little worthless. Thinking of this, he immediately jumped on the back of the Demon King Dragon, ready to go to the air to investigate again. However, at this moment, a sudden change occurred. The originally calm lake surface suddenly set off a huge wave. Several terrifying icicles suddenly rushed out of the black water beside him and shot towards him. The speed of that icicle is too fast. Even faster than most Tier 7 arms. He didn't give the troops around him a chance to rescue him at all, and in the blink of an eye, he was pressing in front of him, and at the same time, there was a chill that went deep into his bones, as if he would freeze his whole body. At the moment of life and death, Lin You forcibly twisted his body and watched the ice pick swipe past his shoulder with a slight difference. Tear. The clothes were shattered, and Lin You had a cut on his shoulder, and the chill penetrated into his body, as if his blood would freeze. Huh? You escaped? Lin You never imagined that there would be people hiding in the lake. And while he was not prepared, he launched a sneak attack on him. If it weren't for his timely response, I'm afraid he would have been pierced by the ice pick long ago, wasting the effect of the substitute scarecrow in vain. Judging from the power of the ice pick, it has at least reached the level of the 7th order peak. Back. Sure enough, I saw a huge wave suddenly turned up in the black water lake. A figure wrapped in black water gradually emerged from the water, and the lake water around him quickly condensed into hundreds of ice elements covered with ice cones, and the momentum of each one was a bit more tyrannical than the plants around him. Even the Lord exudes a strong aura. 7th order Lord. This is definitely a 7th order Lord. Lin You was shocked. But what shocked him even more was the familiar rejection the other party gave him. This kind of feeling has only been encountered when he encountered other realm lords in the battlefield of 10,000 realms. In other words, the other party is not a person from the primitive world. You are from the Yuansha realm. With a low voice, he blurted out, and quickly called the troops to his side. Seeing that Lin You recognized his identity, the Lord also had killing intent in his eyes. Since you know it, it's even more important to keep you. Come on. Get rid of him. The battle of the boundaries does not need too many words at all. Either you die or I live. Although Lin You just escaped his sneak attack, the Element Lord still didn't take Lin You, a lord who was only 6th order, in his eyes. With an order, the ice element around him left the water and rushed towards Lin You bang. At the same time, the cold air quickly condensed and shot out terrifying ice cones. Do you think the same method would still work for me? Lin You waved his hand and summoned all the ancient tree troops. Before the ice pick could reach him, several transparent walls appeared in front of him. After a series of violent explosions, the wall shattered, and the remaining ice picks were also blocked by the ancient tree with his body. Lin You did not take the opportunity to escape. Because he found that although the other party was a 7th order lord, he was surrounded by all 7th order arms and no 8th order. This is his chance, the chance to get the second tier 7 territory essence. How could he miss it so easily? He immediately summoned a large number of goblins to treat the injuries of the ancient trees in the front row. The first wave of offensive, it can be said that no one can do anything. But at this time, I heard the other party sneer and said disdainfully, "This should be all your arms, right? Now I will show you the insurmountable gap between the 6th and 7th orders." When the voice fell, he stretched out his hand and made a move, and the waves rolled behind him, and a large number of 7th order ice elements emerged. With the ones that were summoned just now, the number surged directly to more than 200. This is the gap between the 7th and 6th orders. It is also the purest, the difference in quantity. After all, the average 6th order lord has only 127th order arms in Dingtian. What do you use to fight the 7th order lord? Even if there is no tier 8 arms, it can still be easily crushed. This is also the source of the element lord's self-confidence. However, is this really the case? Lin You sneered and didn't talk nonsense to the other party. With a thought, a large light suddenly lit up in front of him. One after another, the 7th order troops appeared, and in a blink of an eye, the entire shore was covered. There are more than 200 7th order arms, and the number is not inferior to the other half. How can that be? The element lord's eyes burst out, and he looked in shock at the large number of troops that suddenly appeared in front of him. The district 6th order lord. How can there be so many tier 7 arms? It's a pity that Lin You didn't give him a chance to think at all, so he immediately gave orders to the troops around him. Go. With an order, the demon king dragon and the demon concubine dragon took to the sky with the explosive mushroom team, and the melee team headed by Qing Gang also slammed into the ice elements. On the side, there are even snake-like vines traveling around, attacking the element lord straight. Humph. Do you think you'll win me over this way? Let's go together. Freeze them into ice sculptures. The element lord who reacted immediately ordered the ice element around him to start attacking. Suddenly, an extremely cold blizzard suddenly blew across the lake, freezing the lake and the shore into ice cubes. Even the mushrooms thrown from the sky were blocked by ice and snow, and exploded one after another in the air, forcing the demon king dragon and the demon concubine dragon to fly away quickly. Absolute zero. Just listening to the element lord shouted, the wind and snow intensified. The ancient war trees and the cactus boxer rushing to the front actually began to freeze rapidly under their feet, and their movements became more and more sluggish. Those vines that were wandering about to attack the elemental lords were frozen into ice cubes and scattered on the ground as pieces of slag. It's hard to get close at all. Ha ha ha. It's useless. No matter how many troops you have, it's impossible to break through my absolute zero. The element lord laughed arrogantly, and did not take Lin Yu's offensive in the least. Lin You didn't speak, but his brows furrowed tightly. The opponent is a 7th order lord. Even if the arms have not reached the 8th rank, their experience must be very high, and their attributes are much higher than the 7th rank that they just upgraded. Even if he has Lingxi's attribute halo bonus, it can only make up for the gap between the two. If you want to break through the frozen blockade, you have to use other methods. Thought here. Lin You immediately looked at the ancient war tree team rushing in front. Qing Gang. Not needing too many words at all, Qing Gang, who was in the charging team, received the signal and suddenly roared up to the sky. Savage roar, activate. In an instant, a large red light lit up, covering the bodies of all plants. The attributes that were originally boosted by Lingxi's 10% bonus instantly soared by 30%, shaking the ice around him and rushing towards the ice element team. What happened? The element lord was trembling, watching this scene in disbelief. His absolute zero field was actually broken. In a panic, he immediately shouted at the ice element around him, "Quick! Stop them!" As he said that, he hurried back, for fear of being attacked by plants. And those ice elements that were releasing the blizzard also stopped their movements one after another, summoned the ice cones all over the sky, and shot out with a swoosh, forcing the demon king, dragon and concubine dragon back in the air. The rest are pointing directly in the direction of Lin You. However, how could the ancient trees of war allow them to bypass the defense lines so easily and directly use their huge bodies to build a high wall in front of them to block the ice picks? Immediately afterwards, the elf behind made Chi raise the staff in his hand. Healing light, a dazzling green light instantly enveloped all the ancient trees, constantly healing their wounds. The place that was originally penetrated by the ice pick began to gradually recover. Seeing such a picture, the element lord almost vomited blood with anger, and even shouted loudly. However, no matter how he called, the plants with the 30% attribute bonus still broke through the defense line fiercely, crushing the ice elements into pieces of ice. In the blink of an eye, 50 or 60 ice elements fell under the attack of the plants. On Lin Yu's side, he only lost a dozen or so proliferating arms. Seeing that the situation was not good, the element lord finally retreated, turned and fled into the lake. Want to escape underwater, through the characteristics of the ice element. Seeing this, Lin You on the shore suddenly changed his face. Gravity field. At a critical moment, the nearest Qing gang immediately activated its newly comprehended skills, and the entire ground suddenly sank. The location of the element lord was originally closer to the shore. Before he had time to run out a few steps, his entire body was crushed into the shallow water by the sudden strong gravity. Immediately afterwards, the ice layer shattered. The lake water was mixed with sand and choked his mouth, causing him to cough violently. Lingxi. Lin You made a decisive decision and shouted at Lingxi beside him. I saw Lingxi waving the staff and pointing out of thin air. The element lord's body was bound by thorns, and several wooden thorns rushed out from the ground, pointing at his vital point. The lord's response was also remarkable. When life and death were at stake, one turned over to avoid the wooden thorns, rushed out of the gravity field area by inertia, and at the same time broke free from the thorns on his body. Qing Gang was a little far from the element lord, and the gravity field only covered the opponent at the edge. Just as it was about to move, a large number of ice elements immediately blocked its way. Boom! Qinggang swung his arm and swept away the ice element in front of him. Just at this moment, the 30 seconds of barbaric roaring time passed, and the red light on the plants gradually disappeared. The Element Lord was overjoyed, and hurriedly took out a dazzling crystal from his personal space, and a dazzling light erupted. Teleport crystal. Lin Yu's face sank. The teleportation crystal has only 5 seconds of preparation time. If it is successfully used by the opponent, all his efforts just now will be in vain. Haha, you can't keep me. The Element Lord laughed loudly. The teleportation crystal in his hand became more and more dazzling, and the space around him gradually distorted. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this time a few bursts of air sounded. A series of peas with an icy aura suddenly appeared, passing through the gap between the ice elements with great precision. The Elemental Lord, who was still laughing wildly, was instantly hit by a pea in his arm, blasting a cloud of blood. Together with the teleportation crystal, it was sealed by ice, which interrupted the preparation for teleportation. How come? The Element Lord's eyes were split, and he looked to Lin Yu's side. I saw the deep holes of several huge peas aimed at him, shooting a series of peas at him again. The speed was so fast that he came to him in the blink of an eye, forcing him to give up using the teleportation crystal and dodge to the side. Just as he was about to flee into the lake, a violent vibration suddenly came from behind him. Trees, grass, vines, and vines rose from the ground, forming a thorny area in the lake, blocking his way. It is the plant that Lingxi gave birth to with the power of domination. It's not over yet. The moment those plants just appeared, the goblin envoys around Lingxi took action one after another, using skills to mutate those plants into tree demons, and launched a siege on the Element Lord. Under the attack from both sides, the Element Lord suddenly lost his position, had to panic and call the ice element back to defense. However, at this moment, the Banshee plant, which had been waiting for the opportunity, finally broke through the ice and snow defense line, and countless vines penetrated into the ground and suddenly rushed out from around the soles of its feet. Puff! The Element Lord froze for a moment, and his eyes widened to the extreme when a large vine passed through his chest. Congratulations, you successfully killed the 7th Order Lord of the Alien Plane, obtained 270,000 mana, 100 honor points, and the 7th Order Territory Essence X1. The cold reminder was accompanied by a muffled sound. The Element Lord fell heavily to the ground. Together with all the ice elements around him, they all shattered, turning into ice, and falling on the ground. Hearing the prompt, Lin Yu finally let out a sigh of relief, and at the same time was extremely excited. He actually, with his own strength, killed a 7th Order Lord of the Yuansha world. Although the main reason is that the opponent does not have the 8th Order arms, but it is also a higher order existence than him, and the means are extremely good. Just the beginning of the extremely cold blizzard almost made him unable to resist. Fortunately, he planned ahead and raised Qinggang to the 7th rank before going out, otherwise the result would definitely not be the same as it is now. After slowing down, he quickly walked to the body of the Element Lord and picked up the teleportation crystal that had fallen into the water. Unfortunately, this crystal contains the rules of the original evil world. As the Lord of the primitive world, he could not use it at all, and could only throw it into the lake as garbage. And the reward for killing the Lord of the Alien Plane is the same as the battlefield of the world, only magic energy and territorial essence, no resources. It seems that the basic substances between the two realms are not connected. But even so, the reward for killing this lord is very rich, with a full 270,000 mana, which directly makes his mana soar to nearly 400,000. Not to mention there is a 7th Order territory essence that he is thinking about. This trip is worth it. With anticipation, he searched the body again. As a result, nothing was found, but something strange in the Blackwater Lake was found. Taking a closer look, near the bottom of the lake near the shore, there is an ice blue channel that extends all the way, and I don't know where it leads. The passage is very secret, and if it weren't for his close search, I'm afraid it would be really difficult to find it. Could it be that this is a secret channel opened up by the Yuansha realm? Lin Yu was startled, and suddenly thought of the Yuansha den that he hadn't found for so long. Could it be here? It's entirely possible. The reason why the Element Lord would sneak attack on him was probably because he didn't want him to discover the secrets here, so he chose to take action when he was defenseless. When he thought that the people of Yuansha realm had reached so close to the main city, he couldn't help but feel chills down his spine. At this moment, there was a chaotic sound of footsteps in the mountains and forests in the distance. Quick, the sound seems to be coming from the front. It seems that the Lord who is slaying monsters in the vicinity hears something here and is rushing here. Lin Yu didn't think much, and directly called the plants back to the territory, then mounted the demon king dragon and quickly flew away from here in the other direction. He had to report this matter back to the checkpoint as soon as possible, otherwise, it would definitely be very unfavorable for them if other higher-level lords of the original Sha world sneaked in through the passage. And once it is confirmed that it is the enemy's den, his mission can be considered a successful completion, and he will earn 1,500 points for nothing. Why not do it so soon? He flew away from the Blackwater Lake and returned to the heavily guarded post. Under the communication of the soldiers below, he also quickly met the captain of the soldiers stationed here and told his findings, one by one. What did you say? There are spies from the primordial demon realm lurking in the Blackwater Lake? The captain of the soldier who was listening to Lin Yu's story suddenly stood up from his seat. Yes, I just discovered it, right at the bottom of the lake. Lin Yu didn't say anything about the battle with the Lord, but just reported the results. The captain of the soldier is the man of the third prince. He has long known that the third prince is going to recruit Lin Yu, so he naturally has no doubts, frowning and said. No wonder I sent people to search for so long and couldn't find it. It turned out to be hidden at the bottom of the lake. I'll go and confirm it myself. If it's true, then you have made a great contribution. It's just a little effort, Lin Yu smiled. Anyway, he didn't dare to verify it himself. If you meet an 8th Order Lord on the way, won't you die? It is better to leave this kind of thing to a powerful soldier captain to deal with. That's all. After explaining the matter, Lin Yu left the barracks and went outside. It was almost noon now. The checkpoint was much busier than when he first arrived in the morning. Many lords gather here to supply supplies or find partners to prepare for the next outing to collect resources. Originally, Lin Yu did not intend to stay. But he didn't go very far when he suddenly heard a low voice from the side. From their words, Lin Yu heard the words St. Jiao Kingdom. Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.